Well, good Wednesday morning to everyone, and welcome to the John Quintero Show, San Diego Sports Talk on YouTube. We've got a guest today coming up here in about 8 or 9 minutes. Jay Paris, longtime writer in Southern California. He does a lot of work now with the Associated Press and with Forbes. He was at the playoff games up at Dodger Stadium last weekend. We'll talk about the World Series with Jay Paris, and we're going to talk a lot of Padres with Jay as well. He covered the playoff games at Petco Park. Hope everyone off to a great start to your week. I would ask you if this is your maiden voyage on the John Quintero Show. Would certainly appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel. We're building our viewership day in and day out. So if you'd go ahead and subscribe, very much appreciate that. Also, when you subscribe, and it doesn't cost anything, if you got a comment or maybe something you'd like me to bring up on one of my future shows, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. We're going to be talking a lot of Padres today as well as the World Series. And also, you can follow me on Facebook at John Quintero and on X at Coach Quintero 44. I'm going to get into some Padres stuff here in a minute, but I do want to mention last night's game, and I want to start with the two knuckleheads. Right? I mean, the first batter in the bottom of the first inning, those two knuckleheads down the right field line. Mookie Betts had the ball caught, went up, wasn't in the stands, had the ball caught, and the one guy grabbed Betts' glove and was working on prying the ball out. Then his buddy grabbed Mookie Betts' right wrist and held him up in the air. I mean, Betts could have got hurt. He could have got his arm twisted. He could have maybe twisted an ankle coming back down. I mean, that was brutal. It was really brutal. And, you know, I think Fox has really done an outstanding job on the World Series. But I thought they would come back with that a little bit later and talk about that. Those two knuckleheads were ejected from the game, and they deserve to be. And they deserve to be probably suspended, not for life, but at least for the 2025 baseball season. But now we're getting reports this morning that those two guys, one of them is a season ticket holder and is going to be allowed to be at Game 5 tonight. I mean, that's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. And if they are going to be allowed, they can't put them down the right field line again. I mean, that's just not the right thing. The other thing that bugged me last night, and those guys, I mean, they didn't let go of him. And the ball finally came out, but the first base umpire correctly said it was fan interference. I have never, ever seen a ball player grabbed the way those two fans grabbed Mookie Betts last night. That is totally uncalled for, unacceptable. And those guys should have been booted not only last night, but for the remainder of this year, which would be tonight's game, and all of next season. And then they could apply for reinstatement in 2026. That's the way I see it. That was unbelievable. I mean, that was really unbelievable. But, hey, they got the call right. Luckily, Mookie wasn't hurt. And in the postgame, I loved it. Mookie Betts was great. He was very matter of fact. He got questioned about that after the game last night, and he said, hey, it's irrelevant. We lost the game. He didn't want to talk about it. He goes, I didn't even realize the guy grabbed my arm. He just wanted to move on. A very workmanlike guy in Mookie Betts. But last night it was the Yankees' night. They take down the Dodgers 11-4. Dave Roberts saved all of his high-leverage bullpen guys. Jack Flaherty going against Garrett Cole tonight. See how long Garrett Cole can go. During the regular season, he didn't, go deep into ball games. He had some injuries, and they didn't want to pitch him on short rest, so they're going with Garrett Cole tonight. The Surge may get back to L.A. We may have a game on Friday night. We'll have to wait and see. But the Dodgers, who had played so well, really, they had been playing great baseball. They didn't play well last night. They got outplayed by the New York Yankees. Volpe got the big home run, and Dave Roberts, even though it was 6-4, they were in the ball game. They give up a run late, and then Honeywell went out there and spit the bit and gave up 5 runs. The game was over. But Dave Roberts didn't use any of his high leverage guys last night. But a great job by Volpe, a kid that grew up close to New York, in New Jersey, and hits the grand slam, played some great defense last night. I will tell you this. I think the Yankees woke up a little bit last night. But again, tonight, Jack Flaherty, who you don't know, he's hit or miss, Jack Flaherty. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. And Garrett Cole, is going to probably go fairly deep in a ball game. But the one thing the Dodgers do better than anybody is they run that pitch count up on starters. It's going to be a great chess match tonight at Yankee Stadium. And again, tonight's game will start at 5:08. But those two knuckleheads apparently are going to get back in the ballpark tonight. I don't know about you, but I got a problem with that. I mean, you can't grab ball players. And, that was just wrong. And it was really, really bad. It was a bad look, and it didn't look like either one of those guys had any remorse. But give the Yankee security, they got him out of there very, very quickly. But, man, that was a bad look last night for the Yankee fans. And like I said, it'd be one thing if they were reaching for the ball, but, man, they grabbed him and pulled the ball out of his glove. I mean, just a bad, bad look. Okay, a couple of Padre things I want to get into. Scott Boras, who you have to say he's the most successful baseball agent in the history of the game. And there have been some damn good agents. And we got one that I used to work for in San Diego. John Boggs, one of the great agents of all time. Jerry Kapstein, who many years ago, back in the 70s, was, really kind of a trendsetter. Great guy, Jerry Kapstein. But Scott Boras is the guy. There's no doubt about it. Former minor league ball player with the St. Louis Cardinals. The guy has made a ton of money for himself, for his corporation, and for all the ball players he's represented. He's not the flavor of everybody. And you'll see a lot of times Scott Boras will get a big contract for a guy, and then they'll drop Scott Boras. They'll give him his percentage, but it's always on his terms. And one thing I want to explain to you about being an agent is the agent works for the ball player. The ball player doesn't work for the agent. And in a lot of cases with Scott Boras, it seems like the players are working for him. I'm not going to put anybody, in to deal with me. I'm not going to put anyone that's going to make decisions about me unless I sign off on them. Okay, it's that simple. I'm going to control my own destiny. And I think in a lot of cases, Scott Boras controls the destiny of the players because he's always looking for the highest bidder. And we're going to see what happens. He's representing Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim dropped his agent and picked up Scott Boras just towards the end of the season. And the Padres actually have a very good working relationship. A.J. Preller's developed a very nice working relationship with Scott Boras. But Scott Boras the other day made a comment that, I'll be honest, I'm kind of tired of. Is when Juan Soto got traded to the Yankees, Scott Boras had come out and said, well, if Peter Siedler were alive, Juan Soto would be a lifelong Padre. I don't know if that's true or not. And he did it again the other day. Again the other day. You know what? That bridge has sailed. Or I should say that ship has sailed. I mean, Peter Siedler, God rest his soul, was a great man. He was a very good friend of mine who I could text at any time of the day and I'd get a response. And you know what? I'm not convinced that Juan Soto would have been a Padre lifetime. I'm not convinced of that. But Scott Boras, as Juan Soto gets ready to reach free agency, if the Yankees get beat or they come back and win it, who knows? It could be the final few games for Juan Soto in a Yankee uniform. I don't think the bidders are going to be all that much. I can't imagine 5 teams bidding for Juan Soto. But that narrative of Juan Soto would be a lifetime Padre if Peter Siedler were alive, I think that's bull. It may or may not have happened. But you're kind of shooting darts at Eric Kuxenda, Eric Grupner, and A.J. Preller, that saying they couldn't get it done, so they had to trade Juan Soto. That's the way I look at it. How do you look at it? I think it's kind of a bad look for Scott Boras. But you know what? Boras doesn't care. He doesn't care. He got all these big-name guys. He's making a ton of money. He can do and say whatever he wants. But where do you stand on that? I'm tired of that. He said it last year when Soto got traded, and he said it again the other day out of nowhere. Why, is he trying to get other teams into a bidding war? I mean, I even heard about the Dodgers going after Juan Soto because Teoscar Hernandez is going to be a free agent. I really can't see Juan Soto in a Dodger uniform. He doesn't really fit the mold of the Dodgers, does he? I mean, I think he's more of an East Coast guy. He's played in Washington, played in San Diego. I guess he liked it in San Diego. But he certainly liked it in New York as far as that short porch in right field. He hit 41 home runs. He's a great player, great hitter. I thought John Smoltz made a rather interesting comment talking about Juan Soto playing right field compared to Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts holds guys to single. Juan Soto's running around out there and turning doubles into triples. That's probably a pretty good call. Juan Soto ought to play in most ballparks. He probably ought to play left field, but Yankee Stadium because it's short area to cover. And once again this year, Juan Soto, believe it or not, is a finalist for a Gold Glove. I don't get that. He was a finalist that one year when he came over from Washington to the Padres. He was a finalist for the Gold Glove. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you can help me out on that. Okay, the other thing I want to get to before Jay Paris joins, he's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. There's going to be a lot of talk going into the 2025 season about the Padres and what they're going to do with their pitching staff. They need to go out with Joe Musgrove missing all of the year in 2025. They're going to have to go out and they're going to have to bring in a couple of pitchers. And I was looking at the free agent list the other day, and once the World Series is over, we're going to really dive into that. I don't think the Padres are going to be in looking for Corbin Burns. I don't think they're going to be able to sign him. He's probably going to go to a big market ball club. But after next year, both Michael King and Dylan Cease are going to be free agents. And I've been pretty honest about this. I like Michael King better than I like Dylan Cease. I think Dylan Cease probably has the better stuff, the more electric stuff. But you never know how he's going to show up. You don't know how he's going to show up from one day to the next. I mean, we saw him have some unbelievable outings. He threw the second no-hitter in Padre history. And you look at his numbers, fantastic. He made every start. 33 starts, 14-11, and a 3.47, and then you throw in the no-hitter. He had over 200 strikeouts. I mean, electric stuff. But when he's off, and he overthrows, loses command, body language on the mound is not good. And then I take a look at Michael King, and they're both very similar in age. I mean, Dylan Cease is going to turn 29 here, I think, in December, and Michael King's going to turn 30 next May 25th. And I look at Michael King. He made 31. He was in 31 games, 30 starts, 13-9, and a 2.95 ERA. Under 3 ERA, threw career high in innings. I mean, I kind of like Michael King as far as a consistent level, a little bit better. I think Dylan Cease would probably garner more on the free agent market than Michael King. But if you can only sign one guy coming off of this year, and I'm not saying the Padres are going to sign either one of these guys prior to the start of the 2025 season. If you could only sign one, who would it be? Dylan Cease or Michael King? And then you take a look at the postseason. And Michael King was fantastic in the postseason. 2 starts, 12 innings, gave up 10 hits, 5 earned runs at a 3.75 ERA. Dylan Cease was awful. He had 2 starts, 5 innings. In 2 starts, 10 hits, 8 earned runs, and a 14.40 ERA. I'm just giving you something to think about because these are the things that a general manager has to think about. But right now, on what I've seen, body language, mental makeup out on the mound when things aren't going well, I kind of like Michael King better than I like Dylan Cease. Where do you stand on that? Now, on our YouTube page, and I know this is going live on Facebook, there's comments there. Give me a comment where you stand on that. And give me a comment, again, regarding Scott Boras, talking about if Juan Soto were still here in San Diego, then he would have been signed long-term by Peter Siedler if he was alive. Give me your comments on that. I'm tired of hearing that from Boras. He said it, when the trade was consummated last winter, and he said it again the other day. I think right now, for me, I think there's 2 teams going after Juan Soto, and it's the 2 teams in New York. I think you got the Yankees. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the Yankees to sign Juan Soto. But Stephen Cohen's got unlimited amount of cash over there with the New York Mets. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Okay, we're going to get to our guest here in just a second. Jay Paris, longtime writer, a guy that a few years back, and he can tell you more about it, wrote a book on Ohtani. And because of what Ohtani has done, he's continued to have to update his book. So that's a good thing. So we'll get to Jay here momentarily. Devon Sports Gospel, I think we sign Mike King and let Dylan walk. I would tend to agree with you, Divine Sports Gospel. I like Michael King. I like his makeup. I like the way he goes about his business. I think Dylan Cease is an extremely talented guy. Maybe, another year under the guidance of Ruben Niebla, maybe, things smooth out a little bit where he becomes a little bit more consistent. But he's not a young major league pitcher. And by the time he becomes a free agent, he's going to be 30 years of age. I was looking the other day at all the free agents and all the different positions. Wow. And I was looking at catchers because the Padres are going to need a catcher. I mean, there's not a lot there. There's really not a lot there at the catching position. But we'll get to Jay Paris here momentarily. Cease is a Boras guy, too. Shocker. A real shocker on that one. But anyways, we're going to get to Jay Paris, longtime sports writer from the worked at North County Times, San Diego Union Tribune, and we'll get to him momentarily. He ought to be ready to go here any second, but we'll continue to take your questions. Hey, the other thing that I wanted to bring up, I want to drop in a couple of other things while we're waiting for Jay. How about tonight, college basketball? And they're expecting 8,000 at Viejas Arena tonight. And it holds, 12,414? They're expecting about 8,000 for an exhibition game between Cal State San Marcos and San Diego State. Now, San Diego State, obviously not going to have Reese Waters. We'll see if Coach Dutcher holds out any other players tonight. We'll just have to wait and see on that. And then they open up next Wednesday night. Their first regular season game, they're going to open up against UCSD. And UCSD, Eric Olin put together a really, really nice ball club out there. And we'll see what kind of performance they're going to have this year. So looking forward to it. I'm going to be doing on ESPN Plus, I'm going to be doing about 14 UCSD games. And looking forward to that. They had a great season a year ago. They finished second in the Big West behind UC Irvine. What else I wanted to drop in today before we get to Jay Paris? Oh, the Bing Crosby season. I like going to the racetrack. I haven't been able to go a whole lot because we've been busy with a lot of things, but the Bing Crosby season is opening up on Halloween. By the way, I haven't really come up with a costume yet. I'm going to go out with my grandkids and trick or treat a little bit tomorrow night, but I haven't come up with a costume yet. I could go as a ball player, put some lamp black under me, and go out there and carry my bat around. But Halloween, tomorrow, the Bing Crosby season opens up. Tomorrow, they're going to have 9 races starting at 12:30 at Del Mar. And then the Breeders' Cup opens up on Friday and Saturday. Friday, first post is going to be at 11:30. They're going to have 10 races on Friday. And then 12 races Saturday. The first post on Saturday is going to be at 10 a.m., and then 9 races on Sunday, and the post time will be 12:30. But Friday, Saturday is going to be the Breeders' Cup. So we'll keep you up to date on that coming up next week. Trying to get a link to Jay Paris, and I know Alan's working on that, but he will get that to Jay Paris here shortly, and we'll get Jay up on the interview. Okay, we'll get to the Dodgers here a little bit and the game last night, and then we'll try to track Jay down. Yankees win the game 11-4. Volpe hits that third inning grand slam off of Daniel Hudson. Daniel Hudson's not had a great year. His numbers overall are pretty good, but towards the end of the year, he kind of ran out of gas, and he gave up that grand slam to Volpe. Then the Dodgers cut it to 5-4 in the 5th. Yankees answered with 1 in the 6th. And then the Bronx Bombers tacked on 5 more in the 8th. And that was all she wrote. And, there was people criticizing Dave Roberts about, it was a tight game, 6-4. He should have went to those leverage guys. I think Dave Roberts is sitting in great shape. Dave's managed an outstanding series. Really an outstanding series. Aaron Boone last night, he had to do everything. I mean, he had to, throw Luke Weaver probably longer than he wanted, and he got a break because Weaver didn't have to throw the ninth because of the 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th, and Weaver can go tonight. But they've already seen Weaver 3 times in the World Series, so they're getting a little bit better look. But the Dodgers got all their dudes; they're ready to go. Banda, Vesia from the left side, those 2 guys, Blake Trinan, Michael Kopech. I mean, they're sitting, Ryan Brazier. I mean, they're sitting in great shape tonight. And Jack Flaherty, like I said, you don't know what you're going to get out of Jack Flaherty. But I'm going to tell you right now, they only need him to go 3. They don't need Flaherty to go 5 or 6 tonight. They need him to go 3. They even go through the batting order one time. If he goes 1, 2, 3, and retires 9 up, 9 down through 3, he may be gone. And then all of a sudden you bring those fireballers in. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But that's where we're at right now going into tonight's ball game. Dodgers are still sitting in good shape. Even if they were to get beat, they will have Yamamoto going in Game 6 on Friday night against Carlos Rodon. And the other thing about the Yankees tonight is Garrett Cole is going to have to maximize what he can do tonight. And Aaron Boone, if he's pitching well, he's going to have to let him go for a while. He may have to throw over 100 pitches. He hasn't been used to throwing over 100 pitches this year. But we're going to talk with this gentleman right now. Longtime writer, author, all-around good guy. Jay Paris joins us here for a few minutes on the John Quintero Show. Mr. Paris, good morning. How are you?
Hey, doing fantastic. Still got baseball around, so it's always good. Hate to put a ribbon on a baseball season, but looks like we got a series now.
Yeah, it looks like it sounds like you're underwater there a little bit, but we'll try to get you to sea level here and get you rolling. Give me your overall thoughts so far, what you've seen in the World Series. I mean, I know you were up at a couple of those ball games at Dodger Stadium. Give me your overall thoughts on what you've seen so far.
I think the Dodgers are hitting their stride. They hit the playoffs warm, hot, coming from that Padres win, coming from that Mets victory. But really, it's been a masterful job by Dave Roberts, Rancho Buena Vista High. Only to have 3 starters in a World Series and to be up 3-1 is pretty amazing. It's been a tightrope act now for those bullpen games, but it's one thing to lose a game, but it's one thing to lose your game and use your high leverage guys. They avoided that yesterday. They're set up pretty nice for Game 5.
Jay, you mentioned Dave Roberts. You and I know Dave very, very well. He comes to our Christmas party more times than not, and I want to remind all of our listeners out there, our Christmas party, once again, will be on December 6th, a Friday, at the Leucadian, north end of Leucadia. Last year was kind of interesting. Dave came last year. He came straight from Dodger Stadium where he had that big meeting on that Friday afternoon with Shohei Ohtani. And Dave Roberts is always under the microscope. And I always talk about Dave Roberts, a lot like the Laker coaches. I mean,
Right.
Dave Roberts could go 162-0, win the World Series, and people would still be on him because they didn't win games by enough of runs.
And you know what? You know that going into it, John. It's a thankless job, and when the team does well, the players play great. When the team doesn't do well, the manager messed it up. So, Dave, 9 straight years into the playoffs, the highest winning percentage of any major league manager for that distance. If he can close this off, he'll match Tommy Lasorda for 2 world championships. I know one was 2020, the COVID year, but it was a title. If it's a 50-yard race, you run 50 yards. So he takes a lot of slings now. He takes a lot of, grief. And, there were some whispers if they didn't beat the Padres in that first round of the series that they might be out, which is hard to believe. But that's the tightrope those kind of guys do in LA. They demand championships. The bar is pretty high up there, John.
Jay, last night Dodgers get beat 11-4, and of course, watching Fox, they blow with the wind. Whoever wins is the greatest team known to mankind. And hey, the Yankees played great last night. They totally outplayed the Dodgers. Dodgers played some sloppy baseball last night. But the one thing about the Dodgers, unlike a lot of teams, it seems like they can turn the page pretty easily.
They're a business-like bunch. I mean, they are button up. They know what they want to do. They know how to get after it. And there's a standard there now. There's accountability. You have to fall in line, if you will. If somebody's getting extra work in, you better get your extra work in. They know what the goal is from the first day of camp, being out of Camelback, to win a title. So, I think that comes from a veteran team. That comes from a team that's been to the playoffs 12 straight years. I mean, that's pretty tough experience. And it comes with a quiet confidence. And they feel good about tonight. They feel good about Flaherty. They feel good about having their high leverage guys rested. Does that mean they're going to win? Absolutely not, because Jarrett Cole was sensational in game one. That's why you pay a guy north of $300 million. And he should be good tonight. They went through their bullpen a little bit last night, the Yankees, to hold on there, which you have to do in an elimination game. But it should be a good game tonight. And the key is, do the Dodgers get the bad Flaherty or the good Flaherty? And if they get the bad one, he won't be in there long because they got the arms to bring in, John.
I was saying before you came on, I think before last night's game, you figured if the Dodgers lose that game, you need Flaherty to go out there and probably go at least 5 and then go to the bullpen. But the way Dave held his high leverage guys back, Flaherty could go 3 tonight, and then they could go bullpen by committee again.
Especially that day off tomorrow, John. That's the key. And people say, well, why didn't they use those guys last night? Well, then they wouldn't have a day off afterwards. And, it's an elimination game last night for the Yankees. But what they didn't do, they didn't throw Cole on short rest, which the Padres did with Cease, and that didn't quite work out. So the Yankees, they didn't panic. They could have pushed Cole out there, and he would have been well, maybe he would not have been on short rest. But that was a big win to not have to use him. He's ready. Bullpen's been taxed a little bit. Somebody's got to get out to the lead, and they got to figure out how to get Freddie Freeman out at some point. I mean, Freddie Freeman is Shohei Ohtani. He's the Orange County version of Shohei Ohtani, the way he's hitting. Shohei, I think I've never seen him grimace this much in a 2-game stretch ever. Every time he swings, he looks like he's taking a bite of a bitter lemon or something. It hurts. I've had dislocated shoulders, and if this was June, he'd be on the IL. If it was May, he wouldn't be playing. But it's the World Series, and you appreciate the effort. But this is a compromised Ohtani. Freddie Freeman has picked up slack. So has Mookie Betts. The Dodgers still are in the driver's seat. And you always go in sports, would you rather be them or would you rather be us? The Dodgers are saying, I'd rather be us.
Okay, last thing on the World Series. You mentioned Ohtani. You wrote a book on Ohtani a long time ago, and you're having to continue to update that book. What's that journey been like for you? Because you wrote that book really early in his Angel career.
Yeah, on his rookie year, and then we've added his MVP seasons and the WBC Classic when he struck out Mike Trout. It has opened my eyes to Japanese culture. It has opened my eyes to the love of the game that the Japanese have for baseball. It might be our national pastime. We know football's king, but in Japan, it is the number one sport without a doubt. And going to games there is like going to a college football game. They sing the hymnals, they sing songs, they sing the guy's walk-up song. It is so much fun. But just, I think the approach and the reverence, John, the Japanese players, Shohei in particular, have shown to the American game. I mean, these guys walk into those stadiums and they're like walking into the cathedrals. The reverence they have, the gratitude to be playing at this level. If Shohei Ohtani sees a gum wrapper out on the field 40 feet away, he'll go over and pick it up and put it in his back pocket. If he's eating sunflower seeds in the dugout, he will spit the seeds into a cup because the clubhouse guy won't have to sweep up after him. If he gets a walk, he will take off all of his protective gear, fold it up, and wait for the bat boy to come and then hand it to him instead of just shedding it down the line. I mean, they're gracious, the gratitude. You, Darvish, is saying that all those Japanese guys are just high character people that play the game with such respect and reverence. They would never show up another team or another player, but they'll celebrate with their own team. And it's refreshing, and it's neat to see, really.
All right, Jay, let's talk about the Padres. Padres, 93 wins, second best record in the history of the franchise. They're up 2-1 in the NLDS against the Dodgers, and they spit the bit. They can't score for 24 straight innings. Hard to believe What's your take on that? Why and how did that happen?
They ran up against some good pitching, and they got a little over anxious, and they expanded the strike zone, and they started to chase a little. And I think in some ways maybe they thought they had the series won. You're up a game, you're at home, the other team's throwing a bullpen. It's easy to get pretty confident that it's going to turn out your way, but it didn't. And a great lesson, and I think the Dodgers are doing it right now. They're trying to stay humble. There's two kinds of baseball players now: a humble baseball player or one who's about to be humbled. And the Padres were humbled. And that being said, it was a great season. 93 wins, a no-hitter, a triple play, multiple comeback from 5 runs down. I mean, this season was everything what the previous season wasn't. And I think the Padres are younger. I think the Padres are better. But they got some big old decisions on the horizon, starting off with who's going to be their shortstop next year. But this time last year, we were saying who's going to be their center fielder. That turned out pretty well for them.
Hey, let me ask you a question. I had a lot of people reach out to me, and obviously I'm wearing my Padres sweatshirt today, okay? Right. And it was a disappointment. I mean, they had the Dodgers beat. I mean, they really were swinging the bat well. But I had a lot of people reach out to me after the series and said, well, your Padres got a little too cocky and a little too arrogant. How do you respond to that?
There's that fine line, John, you know as well as anyone being a player and coach, between confidence and overconfidence and swagger and strutting. And it didn't seem like maybe they weren't overconfident, but they pushed the envelope. And they got bit. That's baseball. That's playoff baseball. You never know what's going to happen. And when you think you do, that's what you're really in trouble. But you got to hit. And, people point to Cease going on short rest, but it was the bats. That was a potent Padre lineup. So I think you have to tip your hat to that Dodger staff and how they navigated through it. But I think you also have to mention the Padres got anxious. They got a little cocky, and it hit them in the rear end.
Okay, you mentioned shortstop, and I said this when they decided to do this last spring training. All of a sudden, Bogart shows up, and they said, well, they had talked to him, but Bogart's made it sound like they didn't talk to him, but then they talked to him at spring training, and they move him to second base. He goes over there, and now you're devaluing a guy after 1 year here on an 11-year contract. You move him from shortstop, a high premium spot, over to second base. Now you have the injury to Hassan Kim, and you got to go to Bogarts, and say, hey, can you move back towards the end of the year to shortstop? And now the Padres haven't even really come out and said that, Bogarts will be their shortstop. I guess they're going to try to make an offer to Hassan Kim, but Hassan Kim, quite frankly, didn't play a great shortstop this last year before he got hurt.
Yeah, he was. He took a step back. He really did, and he wasn't hitting all that much anyway. But that being said, the coaches who are paid to win baseball games thought they had a better chance with Kim at shortstop than a Bogarts. Now, you paid that gentleman a lot of money now to be your shortstop, but it didn't work out. You play the best guy. I'm just concerned at 31, north of 30, his range doesn't quite look like the Bogarts that we knew back in Boston Red Sox. So I guess they would push him back over there again. I mean, it was always said how many shortstops they had. Well, I don't think they're going to put Cronenworth there. And, I don't think they're going to ask Merle to change positions again. So I think Bogarts is going to have to live up to that contract, and that's going to be as much defensively as it is offensively.
And you talk about shortstop. How about catcher? I mean, Campusano, who was supposed to be their number one guy, ended up in AAA. Higashioka, a journeyman backup catcher, hit 17 home runs, but he's 34 years of age. And Elias Diaz, who's had a nice career, I don't think you're going to sign him for any length of time. I mean, the catching situation's in dire straits the way I see it.
Yeah, they got to have Higgy be that bridge to Salas. I don't know what it is about Yankee catchers when they come over here, but we had Sanchez before Higgy, and Higgy came over and was hitting bombs everywhere, and really, played a nice catching position. But he's not the long-term answer. Obviously, Salas is, and maybe they can get him on a 1 or 2 year deal, not a long-term deal. He comes back because he had a good time. He's an Orange County kid. He loves to surf and skateboard, and every time Tony Hawk showed up, he had the biggest smile in the stadium, that's for sure. But that's a great question, and here we are talking about two of the most critical positions on a ball club, a shortstop and a catcher. Of course, we got Jackson Barrel in center. That's fine, but Those are big question marks, and there's going to be a lot of head scratching going on between now and when they report to Peoria, just how they're going to handle that.
Okay, I got two more things for you. One Padres and one about the big Christmas party coming up. It's become really a monster of a Christmas party. But let's talk about one of the questions I threw out prior to you coming on. After this next season, after 2025, both Dylan Cease and Michael King become free agents. They're very similar in age. King's just a little bit older. He'll turn 30 next May. Cease will turn 29, I believe, in December. But they're both going to be free agents. If you could only sign one, which guy would you sign?
I think I'd go with King. A little younger, a little less mileage on that arm. But Dylan Cease is a top of the rotation guy. So it comes down to value. It comes down to the equation of how much money you have to spend, how much resources you want to dedicate to that staff. I think you get King. I would extend King before now. I would get on him now. And I think Cease, he knows he's the top of the rotation guy. I wouldn't think he would sign an extension. He's too close to getting that big bag of money, being a free agent. So I'd go with King, and, you got to figure out what you're going to do with Profar too. But that pitching, now remember, no Super Joe Musgrove next year. They got Darvish, they got King, and they got Cease. Those are three pretty good guys. But it's going to be interesting. Maybe they go out and try to replace Joe with a big name. I mean, would Blake Snell come back? Are they going to make a run at him? There's a lot of question marks. What are they going to do with Profar? It's going to be a jigsaw puzzle. But tip the hat to AJ Preller. He pulled it off with his trades and reshaping a roster with $90 million less, which was a Herculean task to get as far as they did.
Okay, I want you to tell everyone about our Christmas party because it's right around the corner. I can't believe these days are clicking off the calendar. December 6th. Last year was unbelievable down at the Leucadia, and it starts shortly after 4 o'clock. You never know who's going to walk in the door.
You never know. That's what makes it fun. It's an eclectic mix of people. Everybody from washed-up sports writers like me to Hall of Fame tennis players and Freddie Lynn. And you mentioned Dave Roberts. Not only was he coming from the Shohei meeting, he had to wait in line. We looked out the window. There's Dave Roberts standing in line. I threw out one of my buddies to get the heck out of here. We got to get Doc in here. But it's people bring clothes, and we help those less fortunate. We pass out blankets and clothes to our brothers and sisters whose cup maybe isn't as full as ours. This will be the 10th annual one. We think we didn't have it one year. And one year was so much fun, we might have counted it twice. But there'll be 200 or 300 people there. Everybody's welcome, and there's no charge. You're just come and tell a good story and fill your heart with joy, which is what the holidays are about.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, Freddie Lynn's been there, the AL MVP and Rookie of the Year. Josh Stein and his wife, the assistant general manager of the Padres, was there last year. Former Angel and White Sox Kirk McCaskill. Dave Roberts comes pretty much every year. Buddy Black pops in. It's been pretty amazing. God rest his soul. Barry Axelrod, the great agent.
He was a regular.
Barry never missed one.
He never missed one, and if the party started at 4, he was usually there at 3:30. He'd get the place warmed up a little bit, and you can bet we're going to have a toast for Barry because it was people like them. He always brought a good smile and a good
Kevin
story.
Towers used to show up with his
Towers
wife.
was regular, Rod Laver, a regular as well, and hey, how about Will Venable getting that job with the White Sox? That's great news too. Seeing him climb that ladder. So
Will,
all are invited.
Class
guy, December 6th at the Leucadia, and John Quintero even has a few stories about when his dad used to wrestle with the Marines out there on Highway 101.
That's exactly right. Hey, thanks for the time. We'll do it again. Enjoy the ball game tonight.
All right, old buddy. Love you, pal. See you now.
There you go. Jay Paris, a longtime sports writer, a great guy. It's kind of funny. Jay, when I started covering the Chargers in 1994, Jay, along with Bernie Wilson, Don Norcross, the late T.J. Simers, all those guys were covering the Chargers. And I was the rookie guy on the beat. And I was there for the morning practice, the afternoon practice, and I used to go behind. They wouldn't let media guys do this now. But in the afternoon practice, started about 3:15, and John Carney, the Super Bowl year, John Carney, David Binn was a rookie, the long snapper. Gail Gilbert was the holder. He was the backup quarterback. And Brian Wagner, who coaches down in the South Bay, he was the punter. Darren Bennett was with the team, but he wasn't the punter that year. Brian Wagner was. But anyways, I'd be eating lunch with the guys. That was Rodney Harrison's rookie year, by the way, because I used to eat lunch with Rodney every once in a while. He's a great guy. Love Rodney Harrison. So then I would go to my car right there at UCSD. Man, you talk about a great place to hold a training camp. So, yeah, I'd go out there and read, write notes, call the station, let them know what I was doing. And then about 2:30, I'd walk down to the field. And about 2:45, John Carney, David Ben, Gail Gilbert, Brian Wagner, the specialists, they would come out. Well, now they would never, ever let me do this. But I would go down on the field. And by the way, John Carney comes to the Christmas party. Him and his wife, Holly, they come all the time. I would go behind the goalpost. And John had kicked the ball through. I'd catch it. I'd throw it back to David. So they didn't have to have a ball boy. There's no ball boy out there. I was the ball boy. And here I am, a radio talk show host, and I'm chasing footballs for the Charger kicker. But that's how I got to know those guys really, really well. I was around there all the time. Used to eat lunch with them. Morning, noon, or night, I was hanging around with the Chargers. And it was a lot of fun. But, I tell those stories now. There's no way. They wouldn't even let me on the field, except if I, was covering the coach afterwards. But what I was going to say about Jay Paris had such a great relationship with Bobby Ross that after the morning practice, they would walk over to the UCSD running track and they'd run laps together. Bobby Ross was a hell of a guy, just a hell of a guy, and did a great job with the Chargers. Jay Paris, just the salt of the earth, really, really good guy, well respected. And he's a guy that likes to go to events. He's been with Rod Laver at the Australian Open, sitting in mid-court, at center court of the Australia Open. And Rod Laver comes every year. Rod Laver, deep into his 80s, but he shows up to Leucadian every year. And again, the party is December 6th. It's a Friday, always on a Friday, first Friday in December. And it starts shortly after 4 o'clock. And I'll remind you of it because I'd like for you to come out. Austin Prather, I'd like to see King re-sign. Wasn't impressed with Cease. Well, you know what, Austin, there were some nights I was really impressed with Dylan Cease. There were other nights I'm saying, man, Mike Schultz got to go get him because he tried to do too much, tried to strike out guys. Just get guys out. Make good quality pitches. Get guys to swing the bat early in the count. You can go deeper into the ball games. And Michael King, I think, does a really good job of that. Austin, thank you very much. Very much appreciate that. Okay, we've got a big show planned for you on Friday. We'll recap whatever's going on in the World Series. We're going to be either putting a bow on it after Game 5 tonight, or we're going to be talking about Game 6 that night at Dodger Stadium. We'll see what happens tonight. And we're going to also talk high school football. Friday night will be the last regular season night of high school football in San Diego. And John Maffey, who joined me on my radio show each Friday, we're going to, now that we're back and running on YouTube, we're going to do that with John on Friday, and we'll take it throughout the high school sports season. The practicing guitarist, Cease. Is this a joke? He choked in not one but 2 games. Well, 1 or 2 games doesn't make a career. But if I'm the general manager, 2 things. Number 1, I want the most consistent guy. And the most consistent guy, Michael King, is probably going to be the least expensive guy. So I'm watching my pennies. And Dylan Cease is going to get a big contract. As long as he stays healthy, he'll get a big contract. Maybe the Padres are going to sign him. Maybe they're going to sign him. Maybe they're going to work out a deal. But I think he'll hit the free agent market. I think you could extend Michael King. And you might be able to even extend him before the start of this year, before he hits free agency. We'll have to wait and see on that. Devon Sports Gospel, re-sign Higgy 2 years. Yeah, I'm okay with that, but he's got to be signed as a backup, not as a starter. And I know catchers now don't catch 130, 140 games. If he caught 55, 60 games next year, that'd be fine. But you got to have another guy. And I don't think it's going to be Luis Camposano. Danny Boy, I wish Dodger fans stood up for our players when they were throwing objects trying to intentionally hurt Padre players. None of the Dodger players or coaches stood up for us. Show some class. That was in the outfield. I think it was the outfield. You got security out there. The last thing you want to do is bring players out onto the field. And the other thing I think, and I give the Dodgers security credit, they got on that pretty quick that night. I think if I was Mike Schilt, I'd have just brought my ball club off the field until everybody settled down. I'd have brought him into the dugout for 2 or 3 minutes, and then once security got it squared away, I'd have sent him back out on the field. Make a statement. Make a statement. Everybody's going to deal with that. The last thing you want to do is go out there and cause more issues. But hey, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please subscribe to the station. Thanks to Jay Paris for joining us. And again, we got a big show coming up at 9:30 on Friday morning, so hopefully you'll be able to join us. Again, you can follow me on Facebook at John Quintera and on X at Coach Quintera 44, Coach Quintera 44 on X. And again, I threw out a couple of quick things there today. Give me your thoughts on who you'd sign, either Dylan Cease or Michael King, if you could only sign one. And give me your take on Scott Boras saying if Peter Siedler were alive, Juan Soto would have never got traded and would have been a lifelong Padre. Give me your thoughts on that as well. Enjoy the ball game tonight. Remember, Aztec basketball exhibition game at Viejas tonight against Cal State San Marcos. We'll talk a little bit about that on Friday as well. Until then, Coach John Quintera signing off. Thanks again for tuning in. Talk to you Friday morning, everyone. Bye-bye.